and love myself, and you give power and influence to the wrong people. Look how it turns out. You have to hype yourself up and nobody else on the external side to keep up. You have Hello, 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 and welcome back to Ascension with V. Today's going to be kind of a short one, but I just wanted to talk about a subject that I currently am going through or am coming out of, I would say still going through. And that is about grieving. And that's grieving everything from the life that I could have had, the life that I thought I was going to have prior to the chronic illnesses, getting sick from um, losing my feminine organs to just essentially all the things, right? And it wasn't until I had an appointment with my occupational therapist a couple of weeks ago where I was telling her about me filming the endometriosis podcast video that I did last week and about how the feelings and emotions came up afterwards when I was doing the editing for it. When I had to go back and kind of try to find some pictures of the surgery and after the incisions and, just photos and documents, videos that I had from during that time while I was in the hospital and up to it. Because prior to me having that surgery, I had gotten C. diff, it had gone septic, and it was just like a whole bunch of stuff that was happening kind of back to back to back that I didn't really process at the time. And my neuroscientist friend, Dr. Val Rytova, she kind of broke it down for me, as well as the occupational therapist, that there is a thing that happens when you are going through so much stuff, so much trauma, so much, um, you know, things that have created or are creating a dangerous scenario in your mind where the mind thinks like, oh, you're in danger, so we're not able to process these things right now. It kind of just gives you the amnesia, kind of blocks it out. And um, I've said from a non-scientific standpoint often that God source universe kind of lets you forget those things, or it puts the things that happen to you on the back burner, until you're out of the survival mode, until you're out of the wars, until you're out of, danger. And then when you become mentally and emotionally stable, then it kind of represents these things to you kind of like a trickle down effect, like one by one, maybe you'll kind of get like a little bit of a glimpse of the things that you had gone through during whatever point in time that was, maybe in a dream, or maybe just you'll have like a deja vu moment, and all of a sudden you'll kind of feel the energy or the emotions that you felt during that traumatic event or time kind of crop back up, just randomly. Like I said, it could have been from you standing outside looking at a sunset, and then all of a sudden, bam, it reminds you of looking out of the window from a hospital room, and there was a really beautiful sunset at that time. But during that time in that hospital, you were going through a really painful, traumatic experience. And kind of those emotions crop back up during that moment, just from something simple like that. But it happens because now you're able to mentally and emotionally process these things. Whereas prior to when you actually were going through them, you didn't have the mental or emotional capacity to deal with it. It would have been dangerous for you. It could have tanked you, for lack of better words. These were things that I knew God Source Universe did and was doing with me, but it wasn't until last week when the occupational therapist kind of brought it to my attention, when I mentioned to her that when I was looking back through all the videos and photos for the endometriosis episode, and also for the life after total colectomy and the heads and mental health video. If you guys have not seen those, please go back and check them out. I was like, did that really happen? And even though I was looking at the videos of me, literally kind of clinging to kind of death's doorstep at the time, even though I was seeing myself lying in the hospital bed, even though I was like watching the video of me, looking at the heart rate monitor and the blood pressure monitor and the temperature, telling me that my temperature is 102.7, like I'm visibly seeing it. I was visibly seeing it, but for whatever reason, not even for whatever reason, but my mind couldn't grasp that that actually had happened to me. Like, and so when I verbalized this to the occupational therapist, she was kind of like, Stacia, you're going through grief. Like, you're going through the phases of grief right now. You're grieving. And I was like, what? And she's like, yeah. She said, like, the denial, the things of being like, did this happen? That didn't happen. Did that happen? No, that didn't happen. She's like, this is a part of grief. And she's like, I think you're going through the grieving process now. And it took me a moment, like, I just kinda sat there and, looked at her in bafflement and confusion over, like, what am I, and she wanted me to take it very slow and be very gentle and cautious with myself over the next couple of weeks to allow these things to come to surface for myself to be able to process them, for me to feel whatever was going to come up, and that if at any point in time it became, like, too much to, "Hey, like, give her a call," but it never got to that point because I was able to essentially verbalize what it was that I was feeling at, like, 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. I was woken up with, like, a restless feeling, and every time I get this kind of restless feeling, this kind of restless energy, it's me needing there's something that wants to be channeled and birthed through me. Right? There's something that wants to come up to be released. There's something that wants to be created. There's no time does not exist. Time is a construct that man has made here on the planet of Earth, right? And so anything else outside of Earth's realms doesn't really follow by the rules of our man-made created structure of time. There is no time that it follows when it wants to come up, when something wants to be dropped through you, when something wants to be expressed. So 3 and 4 o'clock in the morning, I'm awakened with the feeling of restlessness of something wanting to be birthed. So I asked, "What is it that you want?" And I could hear to create. I said, or to write. I said, "What do you want to write?" I said, "To create." Create what? What are we creating? And I was just intuitively guided to get my notes out on my phone, get my phone out, get the notes, and I just started writing. So I created this poem called "I'm Grieving," and it just effortlessly came out and expressed essentially everything that I was grieving and that I was going through. And it really wasn't until after I had published it both as a blog post over on Real Life with Stacia on my blog, and then also after I created it into a Instagram carousel and looked back at it, that I was like, "My god, this is what it was that I was grieving, and that I am grieving," and I didn't know, but it was a lot. It was a lot of things that I did not realize at the time was so heavily impacting me, that I was carrying, that I was pushing through, that I was dealing with, that I was, um, kind of holding in on my own without, um, expressing, just because, not just because, like, I didn't have anyone externally that I felt like I could talk to about it, that would get it, that would understand it, that had the emotional capability to hold what it was that I was going to express or tell without it then emotionally affecting them or throwing them off kilter in any way, shape, or form. That was a factor as well, but it was because I just didn't feel like I was ready. I guess I didn't feel as though I was emotionally or mentally ready to revisit those things. And so, yeah, very much kind of like what my occupational therapist had said is like the denial. It's insane to know that we go through these things so often while we're in survival mode, and the worst things can happen to us, and we think that, like, we're dealing with it, but we're really not. We're kind of just like stuffing the lid, down, and kind of like jumping on top of it to try to keep things, at bay, and keep things contained, and to make sure that we're not going to have kind of like a mental breakdown or emotional breakdown of any kind of sort, and that we're able to just get across the finish line, wherever that finish line may be, without allowing ourselves to process. And so in some of the previous podcast episodes that I've created here, there was one that I called kind of life after spiritual warfare, or going from chaos to calm. To both of them, two of them, both kind of the same message, but hitting on different points of it. And both mentioned that it's very much like, you've been at war, and you have. It's a spiritual war. When you're out there on the front lines in a war, like, your job, your main concern is to make sure that you get out alive, that you're able to keep going forward, that you keep pressing forward. And it doesn't matter how many people you see, fall on your journey, no matter how many people you see get taken out, no matter how many, bullets that you may take, or how many times you get wounded or whatever. Your mindset is to survive and keep going. Like, you don't have time to sit there and process, like, this hurt me, or, oh, this happened to me, or, oh, along the lines of being out there on the battlefield, regardless what obstacles or painful events that you encounter while you're on the battlefield. You don't have time to sit there and cry about it, and you don't have time to sit there and process it. You don't have time to feel your emotions and feel triggered by the things. Like, every second counts when you're in survival mode, right? And that is what hems up a lot of people from being able to sit down, process, deal with, and unpack their emotions, their trauma, their pain, their suffering, their losses, by whatever means. It doesn't matter what the occasions were, what the traumatic events were. What happened to you is the fact of something happened that wounded you, that hurt you, that created some kind of mental lasting effect on you, spiritually, emotionally, mentally, physically. And that's real, and you have to allow yourself time, regardless when it is, whenever it comes up, because when it represents itself after you have gotten out of the survival mode, or after Counselor's Universe deems you fit to handle whatever it was that happened, the emotions will start to come back up. The clips or the memories or whatever does start to come back up, and your brain doesn't know the difference between, like, a memory and the emotions attached to the memory of the thing, or the emotions that are attached to, like, when something's happening to you right now. And so it comes up almost like a cathartic release opportunity for you to kind of revisit something that happened to you in a calmer, more grounded, stable state, acknowledge it, deal with it, and release it properly, so that it's no longer stuck in your energetic or spiritual field, or energetic or spiritual body, and it's no longer stuck within your physical body, your chakras, your mind, your heart, whatever. It can all be released out properly without you having to go back and kind of hit the redo button or the revisit button, because you didn't give it the acknowledgement and the time that was necessary for it to be properly released and healed. And so I just wanted to make this quick video to just talk about kind of the importance of allowing yourself to feel the emotions, or revisit the things that are inevitably going to come back up whenever you are ready for them, whenever you are able to handle them. And please visit them soberly, because again, you will have to hit the redo button over and over again. You cannot bypass it. You cannot try to numb it away. You have to allow yourself to feel the things, regardless how shitty they may be, regardless how triggering they may be, regardless how painful they may be. Allow yourself to see it for what it was, and deal with it. If you need to just sit and, like I did, journaling or poetry has always been my outlet for essentially kind of alchemizing my pain into something really beautiful, into something really positive and healing for myself and others. I created that poem for me, you know, you know what I mean? Like it was something that I needed to do, and it just happened naturally as it has always done since I was a child. And but other people really, really, really resonated with it, related with it, and came to me and was like, "Hey, I'm going through it as well." And it kind of really became like a little mini movement, and it was really empowering to know that it really is not just you that's going through a lot of things that you might feel like are embarrassing to talk about, or what you're afraid to be vulnerable to discuss. And I'm gonna keep it a buck 100 with y'all. Like I felt very raw and naked and vulnerable talking about the endometriosis stuff. That was probably the hardest video that I've ever had to make. But I put it out there because I needed to. And at some point, one day, that's going to help other people. That's the thing. You don't just go through the things that you went through just to like keep the experiences and wisdom within yourself, and to like keep all of that knowledge and really honestly a very helpful experience to yourself. Like you go through it so you can learn the lessons, you can gain the wisdom, and you can then help somebody else in the future, and pass that down so that hopefully your experiences will be able to be a guiding light and a way shower for others who are going to come after you that may go through some of the similar scenarios and situations. And so please put your experiences out there. Talk about the things that you are going through. I think it's also a very healing thing to be able to speak your truth on things and not expect anybody, like, let me just leave it there, and not expect anything from it, right? Like, doing things without expectation creates the best results, and with no time limit attached to it, with no expected outcome or how people should receive what it is that you're posting or creating or putting out. Just do it for you. Essentially, do it for you because it is healing for you, and because it helps your heart and soul. And you'd be amazed at the way that it's received, and the way that God source universe then takes it and lets 1,000 flowers bloom from it. But please do find what works for you as far as a creative outlet for your pain, for your dark and negative emotions, and use that to transmute and alchemize what is ready to be released from you in the future. And um, and be ready to receive a lot of really good stuff in lieu of what has been dredged, purged out of you, extracted from you. Because when you take it out, when you take negative out, you got to put the good in replace in replacement of it. So just allow yourself to receive really good things in lieu of it, and shower yourself with a lot of self-love and grace, and know that you are worthy of the good things that are going to come in place of what it is that you're releasing. And be gentle with yourself. Show yourself compassion and kindness, and allow yourself time to yourself in solitude, because you'll need it. And that's what I have for you guys. I hope that this was helpful. I hope this helps you in some way, shape, or form. And don't forget that you can work with me. You can either apply to work with me or just book a session on my website, ascensionoraclev.com. And the New Earth Guidebook to Healing and Ascension is available on Amazon. And I will see you guys next time. Peace, squad.